Who would have known that all it took were 10 words by Kendrick? Those 10 words by Kendrick Lamar. Them superpowers getting neutralized. I can only watch in silence. The Boogeyman has done a number on Drake without even touching him. He hasn't even put hands on this guy. He hasn't even been in the same vicinity as this man. It's like Drake just literally walked into the ring, looked Drake in the eye. The announcer said, "The Boogeyman, K. Mr. Rel, Kendrick Lamar is here." And Drake Keisha, Laurie Graham just threw himself out of the ring. I think Drake is just body slamming himself. Drake is throwing chairs at himself. He's jumping out the ring and slamming his body on the announcer's table. And here's the ice cold diss to Drake. They referenced the line in his song that might have went unnoticed by a lot of people. Talk about him liking young girls. That's a gift from me. And this is a good line to mention because it's saying, Drake, the defamation you're claiming, you told him to say that. The hell? That's like someone saying, say I'm a bad person. And then they say, you're a horrible person. And then the first person says, oh, you're defaming. In this video, you're going to get a full breakdown of UMG just going super hard against Drake, dissing him, diss after diss in this motion to dismiss. UMG they're taking no shorts here. They are not half stepping. They pulled out the big guns. They cited not 5 cases, not 10 cases, not 20, not 30, but 59 cases in support of their motion to dismiss Drake's lawsuit against them, alleging that they botted or they worked for Drake's downfall and they harassed him and all this kind of stuff. Not them starting the lawsuit with a lyric from Drake's song Successful, literally one of his first popular songs that he released in 2009. They start the motion to dismiss with this line. Yeah, I want it all. That's what I strive for. Diss me, you'll never hear a reply for it. Y'all remember that line? Because I remember that line. I was like, man, why did Drake even respond? Why did he didn't even respond? He started this thing. And they started the motion with a straight diss towards Drake. A diss that resembles everything K. has already been saying about Drake, pointing out his phony persona. They say, quote unquote, plaintiff, one of the most successful recording artists of all time, lost a rap battle that he provoked and in which he willingly participated, and instead of accepting the loss, like the unbothered rap artist he often claims to be, he has sued his own record label in a misguided attempt to salve his wounds. No, not them going this hard on you, Drake. Not them going this hard on Laurie Graham. Salve his wounds? That is like when you put Neosporin on your paper cutter. That's like when your kid scrapes their knee and they beg for a Band-Aid. Please, I want a Band-Aid. So you look for the cutest Band-Aid you got to just make them happy. UMG is also looking to dismiss this case with prejudice, which means that if the judge orders with prejudice, Drake can never sue them again about this because they know Drake is probably going to try and drag this out as long as he can. They said, quote unquote, UMG says, talking about Kendrick and Drake, over the course of approximately 2 months, they exchange increasingly vitriolic and incendiary diss tracks, sometimes responding within hours of each other. I mean, they are filled with vocab that just the vocab itself will just scare Drake alone. And then, quote unquote, they say, and collectively, Drake and Lamar released a total of 9 tracks taking aim at each other. Multiple commentators declared Lamar to be the winner of the battle. No, not UMG pouring lemon juice all over Drake's cut. They are making sure they are telling OV hoes that Kendrick won the battle. No more phony rage bait tweeting by the OV hoes like Drake won the battle, but y'all ain't ready to have that conversation. Family Matters was the best song of the beef, but y'all ain't ready to have that conversation. No. UMG done told you Kendrick Lamar won the beat. We're done. Now, I wonder about the 9 tracks. I'm assuming they're including Like That in there because I believe there was 8 push-ups, tailor-made freestyle, Euphoria, 616 in LA, Family Matters, Meet the Grams, Not Like Us, Heart Part 6, which is 8. Now they're saying 9. I'm assuming they're saying Like That from the beginning. And after calling Not Like Us the penultimate track, they say, meaning one of the final songs. I love that word, penultimate. Just the vocab in here is just like, Drake's going to be like, he's going to be using ChatGPT all day long and describing how successful it was, getting Grammys, being played at the Super Bowl, and being parodied by one of the most popular TV shows, SNL. They said, Not Like Us, like all diss tracks, had hyperbolic insults, meaning hyperbole, meaning exaggerated statements, not meant to be taken literally. Like when you say, I'm so hungry I can eat a horse, or my shoes are killing me. None of that is meant literally, right? This is hyperbole. It's meant to make a point. Now, they get deeper down the rabbit hole. And that now and only now after Drake's lost the battle, is he claiming defamation? Now and only now. We had 9 songs. Throughout the battle, he didn't claim nothing except drop, drop, drop. We wonder, why does Drake only focus, right, on Not Like Us, right, and not include all of the other songs in the battle that pretty much do the same thing? The logic doesn't make sense. They also say something that questions Drake's authenticity in hip hop. They say that his quote unquote claims disregard the conventions of the diss track genre. Diss tracks are a popular and celebrated art form centered around outrageous insults. No, not UMG teaching Drake about hip hop. But Lucian Grange knows more about hip hop than Drake? Lord have mercy. They go on to say, quote unquote, Drake himself signed a public petition criticizing the trend of prosecutors using artist creative expression against them by treating rap lyrics as literal fact. How they did with Young Thug and how they're doing with Lil Durk in these trials. Like, they're saying, let's look at the rap music. And Drake apparently, according to them, signed a petition against that. Yet Drake claims to be the biggest proponent of Young Thug. Allegedly, he flew to him when winning the case and gave him $1 million. But they were trying to do to Young Thug the same thing UMG says Drake signed a petition against a while back, and yet and still essentially the same thing Drake is trying to do to Kendrick and UMG and basically the whole rap genre right now. Because if he wins, now we can take anything said in rap music as literal harassment. So every time you hear Playboi Carti's voice on I Am Music, you're gonna have to sue. So when Playboi Carti says pop out, break his face, get it. Just be scared that one day you're going to open the door and he's going to be right there, Playboi Carti, like the boogeyman. So they say Drake knew the right thing then, that music is a product of the artist's vision and imagination. He was right then, but he's wrong now, they say. They start going into a little bit of a breakdown, saying that Drake, he's dissed in the past. That UMG shows their knowledge of rap disses in the past, which I thought was interesting because they say rap diss tracks have existed pretty much since the beginning of rap, since the 70s. They cite Roxanne Shante during the Roxanne Wars, that she was versus the rap group UTFO. Nas and Jay-Z, Lil Kim and Foxy Brown are quoted in this motion to dismiss. Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki. And they go on to say that Drake himself, they say, this is debatable, they say that Drake is a prolific rap feud combatant. They go on to say that Drake has traded diss tracks with Pusha T and Meek Mill. And this is a really good point that can help the case get dismissed because they're basically saying, Drake, you participated in a rap battle before. So none of this is new to you. And this sheds light on the idea that you suing over Kendrick's Not Like Us is frivolous because you've participated in all these things, in not just now, in the past. And then they go on to quote some of the lyrics in the battle, okay? Now they go like lyrical breakdown. Now their lyrical breakdown is much better than anything Drake's lawyers did in his initial lawsuit. The breakdown is pretty good. They just literally explaining all of the hyperbole and defamation. They go on to mention in first person shooter how J. Cole referenced the big three and how Kendrick then responded in like that. Mother F the big three, it's just big me. Then they say that Drake responded with push-ups distributed by UMG itself. That's a nice sneak diss in there by UMG because they're saying that not only was Not Like Us distributed by us, so were your Drake disses, Drake. Your songs that had the same antagonizing lyrics, we also distributed those. Did you sue us for those? I mean, they describe Drake's short jokes against Kendrick, how he criticized his career, and they do go on to make this quote, which I think might be a little wrong here. They say, your first number one, I had to put it in your hand. I think they made a little mess up with that one line, because in my opinion, I think we all can agree that was directed towards Future, because he got his first number one way too sexy with Drake, I believe. And Kendrick, I think he's been had his number one, and it wasn't with Drake. I think it was Bad Blood with Taylor Swift. Anyway, this is a side note. The rest is just amazing. They go on to mention his lyrics in Push Up, saying things like, I'm at the top of the mountain just to have this talk with your ass. I had to hike down. Remember that? And he says, that song y'all got did not start the beef with us. The shit been brewing in a pot. Now I'm heating up, right? Y'all remember that? So they're quoting all these lyrics. Honestly, there's not much to Push Ups in my opinion because it was pretty weak, but UMG is trying to lay the foundation that Drake participated and basically initiated the rap battle with his words, right? They go on to say that Drake was even seemingly impatient, that he couldn't wait for Kendrick Lamar to do something. They mention Drake's use of the Tupac AI and how he taunted Kendrick for delaying a response. And here's the ice cold diss to Drake. They referenced the line in his song that might have went unnoticed by a lot of people. Talk about him liking young girls. That's a gift from me. And this is a good line to mention because it's saying, Drake, the defamation you're claiming, you told him to say that. The hell? That's like someone saying, say I'm a bad person. And then they say, you're a horrible person. And then the first person says, oh, you're blaspheming? Kendrick, we need you. The West Coast savior. I mean, I love the quote of the tailor-made AI freestyle. F this Canadian light-skinned dot. We need a no-debated West Coast victory, man. Call him a bitch for me. They go on to quote unquote, but still you got to show this effing owl who's boss in the West. That was in Snoop Dogg's AI voice. Now's the time to really make a power move, because right now it's looking like you writing out the game plan on how to lose. And in Drake's voice, when he says, how are you not in the booth? It feels like you kind of removed. You trying to let this shit die down? Nah, not this time. You following through. I guess you need another week to figure out how to improve. All this they're quoting, saying, Drake, you baited Dot. You insinuated everything. You the one who told Dot what to say, waiting on him, impatient, saying you got to come out now. We all know that Kendrick replies with Euphoria and 616 in LA. They go on to mention some insults in Euphoria. Kendrick says, I got a son to raise, but I can see you don't know nothing about that. And honestly, they only list a few from Euphoria because Euphoria, honestly, is pretty much jam-packed. But they do mention the questions of identity in there. But honestly, I think Euphoria is just too long. They kind of skirted over Euphoria. Then they reference in 616 LA, where Kendrick says, have you ever thought that OVO was working for me? Fake bully, I hate bullies. You must be a terrible person. Everyone inside your team is whispering that you deserve it. And I think they're mentioning these to prove this is a response to an antagonizing Drake. Then they go on to mention some of the lyrics in Family Matters, which actually, the way they bring it up is pretty fierce. They actually call it a scathing attack on Lamar. So the ones they list, which again, Family Matters was so long and not a whole lot directed towards Kendrick, in my opinion, as compared to the others, but there were still quite a few strong jabs that were very clear. And it's only rightfully so that they're gonna mention some of the most scathing stuff that Drake said, not necessarily Kendrick, because they obviously wanna show that Drake, you are filled with all this antagonizing stuff that you claim also. So they go on to list these. Dissing Kendrick's authenticity, where he says, you just acting like an activist is make believe. Dissing his height. He always said I overlooked him. I was staring straight. These bars go over Kenny's head no matter what I say. Insinuating that Kendrick cheated on his wife. Why did you move to New York? Is it because you live in the bachelor life? Proposed in 2015, but don't want to make her your actual wife. Then they mention how Drake insinuates his children were by his business partner. Your baby mama caption always screaming, save me. You did her dirty all your life. You trying to make peace. I heard that one of them little kids might be Dave Freeze. Don't make it Dave Freeze. Because if your GM is your BM secret BD, then this is all making plenty sense to me. Also saying how Drake basically says that he abuses his fiance. When you put your hands on your girl, is it self-defense because she's bigger than you? Also, they hired a crisis management team to clean up the fact that you beat on your queen. You remember that one? And finally, they say, Drake, you opened up the song saying, emptied the clip over friendlier jabs. Then says, later on, which one of my so-called need a shell from the clip? Come and get this ass whooping. I'm handing them out. And then Drake even closes the track saying, you're dead. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide. So Drake says that Kendrick insinuated violence. And UMG is like, insinuated violence? Empty the clip, you're dead. Who needs a shell from the clip? Like the hypocrisy of it, the contradiction. Then we all know Meet the Grams drops like minutes after Family Matters. They mention that Meet the Grams drops and then Not Like Us the next day. But they say about Meet the Grams that Kendrick Lamar directs his insults to various members of Drake's immediate family and to Drake himself. And that's all. Now, I'm not gonna lie. UMG skated over here. That shit, I mean, if Drake is suing over Not Like Us and he wins, I mean, Meet the Grams is going to be sent to prison. They were smart not to list a single lyric from Meet the Grams because the lawyers are like, listen, Drake ain't sue over Meet the Grams. He sued over Not Like Us, which was actually the worldwide banger that Kendrick won Grammys for. Ain't no reason we need to list a damn thing from Meet the Grams. That's due to Drake's stupidity. So they go Meet the Grams lyrics, skip that shit. Where Kendrick said, you raised a horrible effing person. The nerve of you, Dennis. Sandra, sit down. What I'm about to say is heavy. Now listen. Your son's a sick man with sick thoughts. I think dudes like him should die. Him and Weinstein should get effed up in a cell for the rest of their life. He hates black women, hypersexualize them with the kinks of an info fetish. So Meet the Grams is vicious. Let's leave it at that. They go on to cite Not Like Us lyrics, again, emphasizing that it contains hyperbole. They list Kendrick mocking Drake's brand. What OVO for? The other vaginal option, pussy, and what is the owl for? Bird dudes and bird bitches. I mean, this is pure comedy. All this stuff is literally written in the lawsuit, the other vaginal option. This is like an episode of the Boondocks or South Park. Then they say, when he says, you think the Bay gonna let you disrespect Pac? I think the Oakland show gonna be your last stop. So they're defending Kendrick, saying, this is hyperbole. This is exaggeration. Kendrick attacks Drake's personal relationships alleging he slept with Lil Wayne's girl. They effed on Wayne's girl while he was in jail. That's conniving. And then he calls him an effing colonizer, insinuating that he exploits the rap genre. What's ironic is that Lil Wayne himself spoke about Drake sleeping with his girl in his journal. Ask Lil Wayne. UMG saying, listen, all this stuff is just hyperbole. And UMG pretty much says, Drake, you said drop. And all Kendrick is doing is taking you, Drake, up on your offer. Then they do explicitly list Kendrick's lyrics, that Drake had the most issue with the A minor and certified PDF. Why you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor. And Backlash got a weird case. Why is he around? Certified lover boy, certified PDF. So they did not skate over this. But Drake listed all those lyrics in his lawsuit and nothing from Meet the Grams. So that's on him. And just a side note, that's how you know this whole lawsuit is really all for money, in my opinion, and a wounded ego. Because if you ask anyone who is really in tune with the rap battle, we know while all the other songs might have been ice cold and even more enjoyable, like Euphoria and Not Like Us was a banger, Meet the Grams was the scathing track by Kendrick. Meet the Grams was scary. Not Like Us was the banger. And it took off. But Drake, he wants to sue over that song, not about what Kendrick said in Meet the Grams. The irony, right? If you truly want to sue, that would be the song to sue for because he destroyed you in that song. They go on to talk about Drake's Heart Part 6, otherwise known as the Fart Part Shit, talking about how Drake continues to insinuate Kendrick's fiance is with Dave Free. And Drake calls Kendrick a woman beater again in that song. I don't want to fight with a woman beater. It feeds your nature. Not to mention that this was my interpretation of Drake calling himself a woman. It's all hilarious. Drake calls for violence in Heart Part 6 by saying, I'll slit your throat with the razor. And yeah, the bullets that I'm stuffing in each chamber, your ass in extreme danger. Direct calls to violence. Kendrick doesn't even make direct calls to violence. So they're quoting Drake saying, you are literally quoting violence here. We're not even holding you accountable for it. We're just saying, you're saying this. We're not suing you over it. And this is the end of quoting most of the lyrics. And this was really smart by UMG because they're basically showing how if anyone was defamatory and violent, it was Drake. UMG is not suing over it. Drake is. Now we get to the argument. All their arguments attacking and mentioning why the judge used to dismiss this case. So UMG then cites explaining that in order for Drake's lawsuit to go to court, we have to look only at the facts that he mentions and nothing else, not his own conclusions with the matter, not what he believes. We have to look at the facts. Because if you read the original lawsuit, it has a lot of fluff in it. So they say, listen, one, Drake never really set a claim for defamation. And that even though Drake used UMG's platform, our platform, to publish slurs about Kendrick Lamar, basically his claim for defamation falls apart. Because Not Like Us is just a song. This is just a song, an artistic expression. That's their first main argument. The next thing they say, the alleged defamatory material is opinion and rhetorical hyperbole, right? So they want to say here, to be defamatory, a publication must convey fact, not opinion. What they're saying here is that for this to be defamatory, I have to say this about you as a fact, not as my opinion, not as a song. I have to say Drake sleeps with blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to continue. They also cite another case. They're just ripping this apart. When they make these arguments, they're citing case after case after. It's insane. Like I can imagine if a judge is reading this, like this is so in depth, it's insane. Then they go on to even bring up cases that describe how can you tell if something is a fact or a statement. And it says, is the language clear? Is it clearly understood? Can the attempt be proven true or false? Right? Is it verifiable? Oh, no. Does the surrounding context indicate that it's opinion? Yes, this is a song. It indicates it's opinion. Can we verify every single thing Kendrick is saying in the song? No, we don't know all the details, ins and outs. Is it clear that it's an opinion? Yes, it's vague and ambiguous, right? So they're trying to say like all of the case law already supports this, that nothing Kendrick said can be seen as fact. And in order for you to sue for defamation, it has to be a fact that was said about you. They say a statement's tone and purpose may signal that it is not conveying an accurate factual assessment offered by a disinterested observer. So they go on to say that tone may indicate that this is just an opinion where it reflects anger and resentment. And they go on to cite, like I said, case after case after case. But one of the ones they bring is Michael Rappaport versus Barstool Sports. Apparently there was some sort of some diss track against Michael Rappaport. He got mad saying that they said I have herpes and they said that he was abusing his ex-girlfriend. But the courts ruled that the statements were largely, quote unquote, the statements were largely laden with epithets, vulgarities, hyperbole, delivered in the midst of a public and very acrimonious dispute where audiences reasonably anticipate hearing opinionated statements. So they're using that as proof to say, just like that, everybody knows, right, that this is all opinion. This is a rap battle. They go on to cite tone and anger, and they explain how the lyrics are all exaggerated hyperbole meant to attack all aspects of Drake. They cite how Not Like Us, the music video, has Kendrick beating an owl piñata, and the words underneath reading, "No OV hoes were harmed during the making of this video." Remember that? And they say, this is obviously satire. No one needs a disclaimer that this piñata is not Drake, which signals none of what I'm saying is fact. This is all satire. The thumbnail and the Not Like Us, they go on to explain that it's obvious that the cover art for Not Like Us is edited to make it look the way it does. Then they clarify, it's not like Us came out of nowhere. It was part of a back and forth rap battle following Drake hurling insults that Kendrick's son is not his and that he cheats on his wife and abuses her. In other words, this is a perfect moment for listeners, the audience, to assume rhetoric or hyperbole. It's obvious. Now, no, they go in again hard on Drake here. Drake and minors. They say they demolish him, and they make it clear that commentary about Drake's relationship with minors predates Not Like Us. And it's been reported already. And they even mentioned the Millie Bobby Brown interview, and they say like it's already been reported, his relationship with these minors. And she said that Drake used to text her when she was a minor. All this was before Not Like Us, right? So they also then re-emphasize that in Drake's tailor-made freestyle, he even told Kendrick to talk about him liking young girls. And then they make a good point, and they say in Heart Part 6, Drake even says he understood what Kendrick was saying. He says, this Epstein angle was the shit I expected. Remember that? Only ever with Whitney's, not Millie Bobby Brown's. I never looked twice at no teenager. This saying, Drake, you understood it. You knew what was being said. Then they go on to say, Drake cannot allege that UMG acted with actual malice. But basically they're saying, Drake is saying, we acted with malice to publish Not Like Us. Okay, how can Drake prove we acted maliciously? If they acted with malice, it would mean they knew anything that was said was false, right? Which they don't. That if the intent is to create a parody or a caricature, not to convey factual truths, right? This is just a song. Then they're saying there's no evidence that we're acting maliciously, because that would have to say that we knew that this is someone said a fact about you that could be proven wrong. No, it's a song. And then UMG argues that rap diss tracks like Not Like Us are similar to parody and satire. Drake must provide, they say, clear and convincing evidence that UMG intended to publish false factual statements. It's clear that the song is a diss track, not a statement of facts, they're saying. UMG is, they're wrong, bro. Their lawyers are. Then they go on to say, Drake fails to state a claim for harassment. Now, Drake also sues for harassment. And they're saying that Drake says, Not Like Us called for violence. And we supported that. And that he really makes no case, they're saying, on how he harassed him. Essentially, UMG is saying that Drake is trying to use a criminal law in a civil lawsuit, which he cannot do. Even if he could, he hasn't provided sufficient evidence to support the claim. But they also emphasize how his claim that we harassed him by trying to devalue him and lyrics from Not Like Us, this can't even qualify as an imminent attempt to harass based on case law. They go on to cite everything that makes up something as true harassment. And they claim a rap diss track and Kendrick saying wop, 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 dot F him up in a song cannot qualify as you being truly harassed according to law. The last argument is that Drake fails to state a claim under the NYGBL law. So they're talking about how when Drake said that they're violating business law. How did we violate business law? That UMG incentivized people to stream and promote Not Like Us. And they say that's bogus and just based on an anonymous person, which he brought up in the lawsuit initially in a Twitch stream saying that Kendrick's label paid him to bop the song, right? Some random person. And this point they make is insane because they go on to say, quote unquote, but this claim is then directly refuted by the very source that Drake cites in the Twitch stream. The anonymous speaker, already a dubious source, claims that he was hired by Anthony Saleh, So they're saying UMG, Interscope are never even accused. Anthony Sala is not UMG. Why are you suing us over a random, you brought up a random person saying a random thing in some random Twitter stream, and that person also said that they were hired by someone that had nothing to do with us. Then they go on to mock the initial case by Drake. And if you do read it, I covered this in one of my lives, that Drake kept saying, on information and belief, we see such and such. On information, they say, there's no basis for anything. They go on to cite cases that you can't just bring up in a lawsuit that you have a belief of something and not have a real claim. Like, what's your real claim, right? That we harassed you. Go list all the things that we did. List all the things how we violated the law, right? They're saying ultimately, Drake, you just said that you suffered because a song was popular. We, UMG, did nothing to you. Quote unquote, Drake's allegations of injury and causation are lacking. Drake's theory that every time the recording was played, Drake lost the opportunity for one of his songs to be played is wildly speculative and not cognizable. That word is crazy. Drake seems to be insanely egotistical to think that his song would literally be the replacement to playing Kendrick's Not Like Us. Like, if we weren't listening to Kendrick's Not Like Us, we would be listening to a random Drake song.